What we are sharing right now is the landing page of the Excel version of the application. During Heather's intro, she let us know that she's going to be reviewing the Smartsheet checklist. The Smartsheet checklist is also linked in here in the Excel document. So we're really trying to help point you to the direction of where that is and provide all the information here on this main landing page. So please make sure to review the high-level instructions on the left. And if you have any questions or you need the link to the Smartsheet, it is right here on this landing page as well. Going on to the first tab, this is where we select our district. You're going to go up into this drop-down window and you select your district from here. One thing to keep in mind is that we have the consortium agreement notification down here. If you are part of a consortium, please let us know and mark this box. One thing that we also want to make sure is that if you're part of the consortium, in order to have your funds go through the consortium, you do not need to waive your funds. Marking yes that you're part of a consortium lets us know that we will pull your funds through to the managing party, and there's no need to waive your funds.
Do you want to just look at so you can see? So if you are in a consortium, then just let us know if that's an ESD as a manager, or if not, who that person is.
Going on to the next page is the contact information. We're asking folks to submit to the central login if you have any updates to your contact information. Should you need to know what that login information is, we've linked the email address here for you to reach out to obtain that information.
So these are for a new addition to the application last year was a GEPA requirement. This is going to be for all federal funds, but they decided to do IDEA first. So there is this equity statement or equity assurance. There are 4 questions that you have to answer, describing there's a few different things there, how you are ensuring equity in relation to this grant. And so these are from 4 of our districts last year that wrote statements that we felt were pretty exemplary and that they answer all the questions thoroughly, clearly. And so we just put these in there as some guidance for you. If you do choose to kind of use these, please do not just copy and paste them. You can use them as a framework, but then make sure that you are speaking specifically to your district, because districts of all different sizes are going to have different equity issues. And so we want to just see that your statement speaks to your district specifically. And then here is that equity assurance tab. And again, just making sure that you're answering all 4 questions. Your MOE tab will look the same as it has in the past. The only difference this year is that when it comes to your exceptions, this exception B, which is your change in child count, that is going to be automatically applied. So you won't have to, enter anything here. That's the same as normal, but the other exception boxes will be locked. And so if you have something, if you're not meeting maintenance of effort and you think you have some exceptions, you'll go here to access the form, the exception request form, and it's going to look just like this, but you'll fill that out. And then you can submit that with your supporting documentation on the Smartsheet. Heather will show you that as well. And then that way we can make sure that all of your exceptions that you're requesting are allowable. We've had it in the past where people enter their own exceptions here and then it turns out they're not allowable. So then they're actually not meeting MOE, and it just kind of creates some confusion and back and forth. So we're really trying to cut down on just the confusion in general and the amount of back and forth that we have to do, because we know that you guys are busy and this takes up a lot of your time. So trying to, go slow to go fast at the beginning, hopefully will make things smoother.
Going on to the fiscal assurances tab, we made some updates here and changes. If you've been identified as significantly disproportionate, this is going to automatically populate for you. And should that be the case, you are going to have to let us know which award you want to use for CCEIS. And again, that's going to auto-populate based on the year you pick and the award that was given for that year. And then one final box over here on the right is your CCEIS assurance. And again, this is only applicable if you've been identified as significantly disproportionate. We're asking you to enter your budget here in this line. And then if your budget does not meet or exceed the minimum total budget that is in cell D8, then please describe why.
Yeah, so this speaks to the eligibility requirement for IDEA. The maintenance or the compliance standard is that you are spending as much as you did in the previous year or the last year that you met maintenance of effort, but to be eligible for the award, you have to budget at least the same or more. And when we look at your budget, we're referring specifically to your Fund 100, Fund 251, and your ESD contributions that all apply to special education only. And if that budget is lower, it doesn't mean that you're not eligible. That just means we're going to check in with you to make sure, you know, because there could be like your student count drops significantly. So you're not going to budget the same amount because you don't have the same needs. So that's something that you would just explain to us in that box below. And then, you know, let us know how you're still going to provide FAPE. And we'll maybe do some follow-up with you on that. But it does, you know, it is a-okay if that budget does not meet that requirement, if you have, you know, some really valid reasons for why that has to be.
Scrolling down on the fiscal assurances tab, we made some updates to the language. We got some feedback last year that the language for some of these selections was not as straightforward and clear. So we tried to make the selections a lot more clear, especially for example, time and effort reporting. It's just, no, we don't have a system, or yes, we do, and we will submit information about that system. Funding elections have remained the same. Again, we try to reframe the language to be more straightforward and easier to understand.
And with time and effort, this year we are asking every district to submit their either your process that you follow, just like written up, or some sample documentation, whether that's filled out, you know, like an actual document, or it's just an example of what you would use to fill it out. The time and effort is a requirement for all federal awards. So this is just us, you know, making sure that we are all meeting that federal requirement of having a time and effort tracking system.
The next tab is the FAPE assurances. No updates or changes have been made to this tab. Just please do ensure you're looking at each of these assurances and marking a selection for each one of them. Same with the program and data collection assurances as well. Charter school assurances have remained the same. We made an update on this one to allow for an LEA to select that there's no charge within their boundary. Private school assurances remain the same. No updates here. Your fiscal risk assessment, there are 3 boxes that will be automatically populated once you make your school selection. That would be percentage of funds claimed for the grant in the prior year. This is a snapshot as of last month. Your MOE award and approval for last year. And then on time and accurate reporting for our data collections. So those 3 will be automatically populated based on information that we have. And then the rest will be the same self-assessment for the fiscal risk. Signature tab, this hasn't changed. The one thing we would like to call out here is the consent for electronic signature. We had a lot of folks last year filling out these boxes, which is greatly appreciated, but please make sure that we fill out that drop down for the consent for electronic signature.
And I also just want to highlight again the acceptance or reallocation. This was new last year, so just to remind you, as a district, you are able to accept your award. You are able to accept your award and request additional reallocated dollars, or you are allowed to, you know, if you are meeting the FAPE requirement, that you can then waive your IDEA award. So if you waive your award, that's the amount that is going to be reallocated to other districts. If you are wanting reallocated dollars, you have to choose one of these reasons, the criteria and the regulations is that you are, have inadequate special education or related services. And this does not mean that you aren't meeting FAPE. It just means that you need extra money. So if you do select something off of here, it's not going to affect your fiscal risk. It really just lets us know that if we give you more IDA dollars, that you have a purpose for them. So again, you can either accept your award and request additional funds, or you can waive your award. And if you're requesting additional funds, to make sure that you choose one of these kind of applicable situations.
That concludes the Excel form. We wanted to pause here to see if anyone has any questions. And again, we realize that we're recording this, so if you don't want to ask your question right now, totally understandable, and we will leave room at the end. So
Alex, would you scroll down so they can see at the bottom where the sections are show that they're green if all their sections are filled out? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, it just doesn't show up unless the application is.
Oh, I see.
So what Heather's referring to is that when you complete a tab, this column A here will turn green if it's filled out, or it will be red if it's not. So then by the time you get to the signature page, down here, it will either be, you'll have all these boxes in green showing you that they're all filled out, or there will be something in red, and it will tell you which tab is still needs to be addressed. So yeah, sorry, it's not up here now, but it will do that for you.
Just kind of a helpful tool that I found pretty neat in the past, but sometimes people don't scroll all the way to the bottom after they've signed. So.
any questions before we flip over to the Smartsheet? No worries if not.
Okay, so this is an application submission tool. It is new this year. We're trying it out because we had there was a lot of back and forth TA last year, and some of this we felt like if we could just put in some more support up front, it would help reduce the amount of TA or confusion. So what you'll see here is that the checklist follows the workbook tab by tab. So as you're working through these, it goes tab by tab. One of the things that happened for a while, Smartsheet was doing a progressive save, so that if you needed to come back to the form, you could. And for some reason that ended up stopping just a few weeks ago. And so if you have this open, you're welcome to use it as a tool while you're working through the Excel document. But just know that anything you put in here, it might not save if you have to leave and come back to it. That said, though, if you have your application pretty well filled out, you're just essentially double checking and populating your answers on this form from your Excel workbook answers, and it shouldn't take you very long to get through it. So it should be pretty straightforward that way. Let's see. So there's going to be certain things on here that are required, and there will be a red asterisk if something is required. And yes, so we definitely want to see your workbook attached in Excel format. And then of course, whatever your time and effort documentation. And then of course, if you have any MOE documents that you're submitting at this time. I'll scroll down just a little bit so I can see the navy blue part. So on here, there is another link to the application if you, for some reason, you open this first. And the other thing we want to make sure is that if you get stuck at any point, fill out your application and submit it through the portal the best that you can, and get it submitted so that we have your application in on time. We will always reach out to help any particular areas you get stuck on. So don't let it stop you. If you're not quite sure about something, just fill it out the best you can, get your signatures on there, and go ahead and submit it. You need to have, we really like people to have everything submitted by June 21st. The earlier the better, because that way, if there is something that comes up, we have lots of time to help support you. And yeah, so let's go ahead and go to the white section. So we'll kind of go through that this is just an opportunity for you to review your application and double check some of these key data points from your application. The thing that to know is that I'm using the you as a collective you, and it's referring to the LEA that you're filling this out for. So when I say you, we're talking about the LEA and the students that your IDA funds are going to be supporting. So it's really, it's kind of a relaxed language, but please understand the intention is not the person, but your LEA. I mean, it's typical kinds of things you would expect to see. You're going to fill out a name, who's filling this out. We would like you to use some naming conventions. So any of your documents that you're going to be attaching, it's going to be your LEA name, FFY 2024, and then app if it's your application that you're submitting. And you can copy and paste from your workbook when you populate your district name. You can copy and paste that. That's the exact name that we need to see on any of your documents. And then you just put application or MOE or whatever it is after your name. So that would be appreciated. And then if we go down to a consortium, Alex already spoke about this. If you do have a consortium and you click yes in this, it's going to open up so that you can populate who is your consortium entity. So if you select no, you don't have to put anything in there. And if we scroll down, MOE is another area. Depending on what selection, there will be a pop-up. So just be aware of that. And if you have met with exceptions, again, so the expectation is if you've selected one of those, there's going to be some sort of documentation attached with your application. And if we go ahead and scroll down, I mean, everything else is, again, you're just going to, all the information that you need to fill this out is in the Excel workbook on each tab or in the README section. So if you aren't sure, go to the tab that this is referring to. And I tried to put line numbers on there so you can like really pinpoint what are we asking for and what do you need to look at. And go ahead and scroll down a little bit more. For time and effort, we do realize that sometimes you might not have a system in place. You want some TA, so you can go ahead and submit that. Also know that in this section, and I believe in the application, but I'm not sure, we put links to some support for time and effort that is located on our website. So if you don't have a system in place, we have some templates available there for you to use if you're trying to develop something. All right. And then as we scroll down again, double check and make sure that your funding elections are accurate, that you're understanding that when you're talking about Regional Inclusive Services, LTCT, or Oregon School of the Deaf, that your selections here affect allocations. And so it's really important to be thoughtful about that. And if you aren't sure what that is, you can reach out to the program person. So Kara Williams for Regional Inclusive, LTCT is our is Sam Coe, and then Alex is going to be running interference for anything for Oregon School of the Deaf. And what will happen is if you decide that you're going to manage these yourself, these people will get a notification that you're choosing to retain those funds. And so you'll be working with them on a plan for how you're going to be servicing. All right, and we'll go ahead and go on down. I think everything else is pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, we added the charter school discrepancy flag. There was a couple of instances where something wasn't pulling in to the application as intended. So if something doesn't look right, you can hit the flag there. And when I apologize, it is really hard to see. It's white on a white background, and that is a Smartsheet thing that I can't change. So just be aware that that's there. And if everything looks good, then you just carry on with your responses. Yep. So on the signature tab, the other thing about the signature to know is that some people are not comfortable doing an electronic signature, you're welcome to collect a wet signature and attach that as a PDF document. So at the end, that is an option for you. And so this is asking you, this first part here is the acceptance of your award. So yes, you are accepting and not asking for more. Yes, you're accepting and you will ask for additional, or you're waiving your funds. So Alex, if you click on yes and not, or actually yes and will, I think is the one that has the pop-up, or maybe it doesn't. No, I think I probably didn't. I think we just left it that everybody would fill it out at the next part of the section. If they are waiving or they're not, then they click not requesting funds. In this bottom section, they would select not requesting funds if they are not requesting funds. Yeah. And then this is the signature part I was talking about. So it gives you instructions on what to look for to sign electronically, what to do if you're wanting to submit a wet signature. So instructions are there. And the consent, like Alex said, is really important. If you're digitally signing, we have to have consent, your consent to accept that signature. We don't want it to look like we're the ones who signed on your behalf. We try to put some extra helps in here. So this is just to make sure that you have all of your documents ready to go. And so if you scroll down, it kind of shows you it's the naming convention, but also what is required, and then what you also might need to submit depending on what your responses are up above. So if you are a part of a consortium, you probably have a consortium agreement, and please attach that. If you have MOE exceptions and the exception request form, please attach that. If you have if you're having difficulty for whatever reason, because that did come up for whatever reason last year, having difficulty putting your GEPA information in the blue field in the Excel document, you can attach any supporting documentation to support that and just make sure it's named appropriately so that we understand what's happening there. And then, and it's right underneath it, it says drag and drop. This is where you're going to put your files. And the thing to know about that, when you drop your files, it's going to create a list, and it's right next to number 7 of what documents to attach. And I apologize for that. I wasn't able to move that. So they wouldn't. So just be aware that all your files, they're going to be listed there for you to see, but they kind of are going to blend in with the list that's already populated there of what to include. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, just to make sure you've attached all the things that you might need to, here's a couple of ones. Did you attach your MOA exceptions? Did you attach a consortium agreement if required? So just to make sure that everything that you need to attach is attached. And then some more information about what happens when you submit. And this is going to be going to the assurances mailbox like it has always done, but it is also sending alerts to specific key people about the data points that you've entered on here, and it helps people know, what kinds of things that they might need to do, or any TA that they might need to get ready for. Then our review process occurs. And yeah, if you ended up submitting your application to the assurance mailbox like you've done in the past, it's not going to send those alerts, and it could be delayed before anybody would have a chance to review it. So we're going to be looking for something very specific coming through the mailbox right now, and it should either be TA types of questions or these alerts that you've submitted your application. The other thing is we really, really, really appreciate if you would send yourself a copy of the submission by checking this little box down here. I can't make the font any bigger or make it red or anything. But by doing this, you're going to get a copy of all of your responses once you hit submit. And then you can forward that email that you'll receive onto any of your other business partners that might also need to know that you've submitted this and what information you have entered there. So really important part of this, and strongly encourage people to do that. And again, if I could make it in red letters and really big, I would do it. But we're working within the parameters that we have. Hitting submit submits everything, like I said, and then triggers the alerts and gets everything to the assurances mailbox. And I think that's pretty much it, my part. So if there's any questions or concerns about that, we'll open it up.
There are questions in the comments. I just wanted to note that.
A quick example of attaching a document real fast. So here's what Heather was mentioning in terms of it's going to create a small list right here. And it will be a running list of what you attach.
And at least it has a little icon, so it kind of differentiates. It's not going to number it, but it's kind of annoying. And I wish I had a better solution for that, but we sure don't. So thank you, Alex, for showing what that looks like.
Of course, I'm going to stop the recording. That way we can start answering some questions. Is that okay? All right.